Cookies, Cosino Art here, and today we have a very special guest joining us, my friend, amazing, creative, talented person. She is a comic creator, webcomic creator. You might know her by her work, The Witch and the Bull.
So I was originally born in the US and raised in Taiwan, and I started creating The Witch and the Bull about like 2019, and then we debuted it on 2020. So the year of the pandemic, everyone is at home reading my comic. So yeah, that was how it started, and the story is actually about a guy who got turned into a bull, and then he actually has a very important job as a king's advisor. So he met the witch that created a curse, but not the one who cursed him. So she felt really bad, and then she said like, okay, I want to like help you like to reverse this curse. So there they go and search for a cure.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. And if you guys want to check out, the link is going to be down below.
Check it out.
Coffee break. Not sponsored by Dr. Milk.
Not sponsored. Actually, we wish.
It could be. The next one can be. So Moonsia, I remember you were telling me that you've been in the comic making game for quite a while. So
yeah.
Would you mind telling us real quick about your experience and like how you got into comics in the first place?
I think, well, the first time I read comics was like in elementary school. That time I have a problem reading books, novels, but I love stories. And I realized comic is a really great media for me to read because I have like a little bit of dyslexia, and comics just like kind of separates into like a chunk of words and pictures, and then so like it's the way it's presented, it's very easy to read with the flow, and I thought like this is really cool. By the time I turned like 13, I decided I wanted to become a comic artist.
Oh wow, so early.
It's very early, yeah, because I realized how much I do always love drawing, and I love storytelling, and I've always thought like, oh, maybe I should get into animation and stuff. But then I thought, well, actually comics is a really good medium. So I started kind of grinding on this genre, and then I started maybe joining contests and stuff. So I did a lot of comic contests since like the age of 16 till all the way till I was like in my 20s actually.
Were they like short comics or?
They were very short. The first one I ever created and won an award was in Taiwan, and then it was on a magazine called Long. Yeah, and then I remember my boss at that time. I was in the animation studio, and then my boss told me that you should aim for something more international. I was like, all right, okay, I'll listen to your advice, because I feel like the guy probably knows more than I do in the industry and like the art world and stuff. So I did that. I started entering competitions in Japan, and then yeah, some of them won like prizes, and one of them actually flew me to Totori. It's a town in Japan but Detective Conan was from there, which that was really famous, and they host this yearly international comic award. So I got that, and then that was it. It gives me even more confidence that I want to go down this path. Yeah.
So would you recommend for people who are just starting out with comics, would you recommend that they would also try to attend like competitions and stuff?
I definitely recommend it because it gives you the chance to tell a story from beginning to the end, and then you get like a smaller scale, and then that you can play around with this structure, and then you create a story. And actually, now that I started creating like long series, I actually miss the days that I'm creating shorter comics, short stories. Yeah.
And in those competitions, do they usually give you a limit, for example, a general storyline that you go off, or like a limit for pages, or what is it like? You gotta create it for the competition specifically,
yeah,
so like
exactly.
what's the rules kind of usually?
So it depends on the competition, but like my favorite one is called Silent Manga Edition. So this one, you basically create manga that's I think within like 8 to 16 pages, I can't remember, but they might change the rules on their website, but they always give you a theme, very simple theme. So sometimes it's just like a moment to be happy, a memorable smile or something like that. They give you a simple theme, and then you use that idea and to create something out of your own.
I love that. It kind of reminds me, like, you know, even in art school when you're given those like little assignments and you have this little theme and then you just go all creative around it.
Yeah, exactly. They just give you like a little direction, and then the rest is up to you.
Exactly.
The Silent Manga edition, like the thing I loved the most was actually because there's no dialogues involved. So all you do is like play around with the performance of like action and how you frame things, how you like all the expressions and stuff. So it really challenged your skill this way. And I love it.
Oh, that's so cool. Maybe I should try.
You should try it. I think everyone should try it. Even now that I'm already doing this full time, I still think maybe I should, when I have time, I should go back and submit one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's always a great practice.
And would you recommend any, like Silent Manga is one, any other like competitions you would recommend people submit to?
I think this is the one that I recommend the most because like they have, I think, 2 or 3 per year. And then I think Webtoon, if you want to like go to the Webtoon direction, Webtoon is also hosting contest. Like in Taiwan, they're doing it right now. And then in the US, they used to, I don't know if they still do, I don't pay attention anymore. Yeah, but they used to, and then you could like win the contest and then they might get in contact with you and then talk about something long term. Yeah.
See you guys. You see guys? You see?
Yeah, but right now, Webtoon Canvas is also like kind of a route as well because editors, they do go and check out what's like the hot like next star or something.
And since we're speaking about like the comics and the Webtoon, why did you choose Webtoon? Like, why the vertical format? Why Webtoon? Why not the traditional spread? You know?
Yeah, so I started with the traditional manga. That's what I thought I will always be doing. But then like Webtoon came out, I was like, I'm very curious. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is such an interesting way of reading manga, reading comics, and I was just like, I wanted to give it a try and see what I can do with it because you can also put in animation, music into it, sound effects. So it was actually really good for like horror stories. I've read, well, I didn't finish reading because it was too scary, like because like the whole thing kind of jumps out, and I was like, well, that experience was very, I just never had it before with other comic mediums. So I thought like this is actually like a brand new thing that I wanted to explore. So it's really just from curiosity, really. Yeah, I didn't really thought much. I was like, I wanted to do something, and I know I'm really good at colors. So I thought like this is unlike manga. I can add in another skill that I always like that I cannot really express in manga.
So speaking about like drawing skills, did you go to like art school or are you self-taught? How did you come to drawing comics in the first place in terms of like actually doing it?
So I said like around 13 I know I wanted to become a comic artist, right? And then at that time I just bought a lot of like just art books from like video games and stuff, and now like look at like all like the stuff and I would just like try to draw something similar or draw something that has like the same pose or something, and it went from there. And then I decided that I want to go to this high school called Fuxing Art School, Trade and Art School. Fuxing Trade and Art School. That's where I went for high school, and other than like all the normal things you will learn in high school, you can also choose one of your major. So I choose fine art. Well, I choose fine art because like starting from the second year, you don't have to learn math. So I thought that was great.
Artists don't need math.
You do, actually. You do need math at some point. You have to calculate your income. You have to learn how to do all the finance stuff yourself. But yeah, so starting from high school, that's where I meet a lot of people who also wants to become a comic artist. There have been people who are already like drawing their own like comics and go to conventions and sell them. So I was like, oh my gosh, these people are so impressive. And yeah, it was from then our teachers from school, they also give us information about like contests and stuff. So I also joined in one of them, and I didn't know like manga needs to be used in like black ink, and so I was using it like completely with like just my pencil.
Been there.
Yeah, but it's really pretty though. I still love that story that I created at that time, because now with this, like with everything I've experienced now, like I probably cannot create something so pure anymore. It's like, it's different. It's very different. So I always feel like people should just like, if they have something in mind, just create them. Yeah, don't wait. So learning traditional art, watercolor, oil painting, even like wood carving, and photography, all these things, color theory, we all learn in my high school. So that's where I learned majority of my art skill. And then the rest is just through experience at work in the animation studio and the video game industry.
What kind of jobs did you have in animation studio and video game?
So I didn't really have a proper title of any sorts. It was
As
just
they do in Taiwan.
Yeah.
That's the industry in Taiwan, everyone.
So for me, like my business card just says artist. So I'm an artist. I was like, that's great. And so I do character design sometimes, but then I wasn't very good at that. I was only 18 and I do like animations and I draw backgrounds, but mostly just like creating props and then moving them around and like creating an animation. I only did that for like about 1 year and then I decided like I really want to go into video games. Because if I want to become a comic artist, I need something that's very sustainable, like some like steady income to make me like save like enough money so I can burn it later and then like chasing after my dreams, right? I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And then my boss was also very supportive of that. He was just like, yeah, like I encourage you to go out and to learn what you want to learn, you need to learn. And then if you ever like wanted to come back, you can always come back. They're not here anymore, so I cannot go back anymore. So, but I went to Vancouver. I studied a year in Vancouver Film School.
What did you study?
For video game design.
Oh, that's so cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, because I could actually just go into the industry in like video game industry, but I wouldn't know anything about creating a video game. So that's what I want to learn. You know, like if I just wanted to become a video game artist, I still want to know the whole process.
Production pipeline.
Yes, I wanted to know from the beginning to the end, and I want to know how to design a game, like what is like all the things that goes behind it.
And this real quick, I just want to point out, this is a very smart way of looking at it. Whenever you're like in animation industry, game industry, anything that has to do with arts, I always think that like even if you're only responsible for a little part of the process, the more you understand the process, the better you will be, and also you will have more options for yourself to grow as well.
It's so much easier once you understand the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then also like lowers the chance of your like layoff.
You become irreplaceable.
Not irreplaceable because you still get laid off eventually if they don't have enough like funds, right?
Or once they start using AI instead of using.
That's gonna happen. I think it was like also like the year I was in Vancouver. That's where I learned my English the most. That comes in handy later on when I wanted to create my webtoon with the US Webtoon headquarters. Does that make sense? So yeah, if I didn't go to Vancouver, my English level wouldn't be enough to work in the US industry. Yeah. So that was important for me.
Which you have awesome English. I honestly thought that you were like raised abroad. Like when we just met, I really thought you were just raised abroad. You've done a really good job.
It's really funny because like I travel now, right? And then like people will recognize my accent and say, "Are you from New York?" I am, but
New York,
I didn't know I have an accent from there. Really? Yeah.
So actually, I've made a video of my own about like Webtoon comic production pipeline. So that people kind of have like step by step.
Yeah.
But I do really want to learn about your process because I mentioned before, every artist is different and like everybody chooses their own process. So I would love to hear your process of like creating Webtoon, like step by step kind of thing.
So my process of creating a Webtoon is that I will write the whole plot, like from the beginning to the end of the series in a very like basic way, and then separate them into 4 pieces specifically for the Witchinable. And then I take one piece of it and then I make it larger, and then I write more details into it. And once that's done, I slice them into episodes, and then I take it out, and I was like, okay, the more details of the episode, what is exactly going to happen in these episodes. So that's what I did.
So when you do that, would you say that, for example, if you broke it down, so as I understand, you take a general outline of a story,
I write,
break it down, then basically detail it in and detail it in.
It's kind of like drawing as well. You do the sketch, and then you go there, and I'm like, oh, it's similar.
Yes, exactly. So do you like to, like, for example, write a script before you start drawing an episode, or do you write several episodes before you start drawing?
I tried writing separate episodes first, But then I realized I need to start every episode, I need to do the script first. And so I learned to write this way from a book written by a Taiwanese comic artist, manga artist, Lin Qinghui. Yeah. I was reading her work since I was like around like 14, 15. Yeah, she's still around. And this book, a lot of comic artists, manga artists, webtoon artists in Taiwan have read this book.
And it's such a shame that they don't have an English version for it.
I don't know, but like you can read Chinese. You're fine.
Well, my audience can't.
It's okay. This is when like AI comes in handy.
Oh yeah, true.
Yes, why they can help us like translate really fast. But yeah, like so like it's write down like the script and then start doing the storyboarding. Yeah, and then one thing I think she does is like I also follow her like style is like she makes every character a color. I think because that's what I did. Script. Yeah, in the script. So if say the main character says something, I was like the main character is pink, and then the other character is like blue. Like I said that. I was like then I don't have to write down the name who wrote this. I'll just like color code everything, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I cannot remember if she wrote that in her book that she does this, or I just thought like this is easier. Yeah. Either or, but like that book would like help me to like kickstart like to write like my comics in the beginning. But yeah, and then like I'll do the storyboarding. I used to do it on like a little flip book, but now I do it just like on the canvas and I use Photoshop. So I'll draw like a strip, probably like 6 strips or 7 strips, like to 11 maximum, and then I'll draw it. The storyboard inside these strips.
So would you draw storyboard for the whole episode first?
Yeah, definitely. I draw storyboard for the whole episode, and if I have music, I send the storyboard to the composer. Yeah, if I don't have it, I will just, like I crop, and then like I make a new file, and then I extend it to the canvas size that I need. And then I start drawing like line art. I really love using music in the episodes, like especially when I feel like this episode just really needs that mood, it just has that mood. I was like, I need a moody music to go with it.
It's almost like animation too.
Yeah, because like I even created an episode where the main character sings. So we even like go like far enough like to do like a little audition.
Oh,
it's really fun.
It's so amazing to do that. It's awesome. I gotta look for that.
And I've never write like lyrics before, and then so I worked with a composer, and we were like working on the lyrics. It was hilarious. We're just like laughing the whole time. It's like we need to write the most cheesiest thing for this. It's like yes, people are either gonna love it or hate it.
Yeah, I love like this is a full-blown production. You have a composer, you have a whole thing set up. This is awesome.
Yeah, so like because like the whole idea of this is just. Because I'm curious, how would it look like? Can it be done? I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and if it fails, it fails. Whatever. Yeah, if people hate it, let them hate it. Then I'll probably be like, I hate it, but no, it turns out to be very nice. Like everyone loved it. Well, not everyone. Like 90% of people liked it.
And that's a good mindset too. I feel like if you do it, just do it for yourself, right? And like, if people hate it, they hate it. If not, then great.
Because like I definitely do want the readers that I can like. Draw something that they will like. If they don't like it, I don't feel like I don't cater towards someone. So I create something and it gathers the people who likes it. But yeah, I feel like it's just the same thing as music. You don't have to cater towards it. Not everybody loves Taylor Swift, but the people who do love her like goes over the world for her. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. Not everyone's gonna like her. Same as me. Same as everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a very good way to look at it because I feel like we do like a lot of times when you're trying to do well, you try to kind of people please, if I can say that. Yeah,
it's true.
But it's a good way to like check yourself as well in the process.
I think it's very important. Like drawing the series is very important to keep in mind, like to be aware, are you people pleasing or are you actually taking good advice from the readers? Because I actually got good feedback that makes me want to create another storyline for someone. Because I have my main character and his mom was a pirate and she's probably still out there, like doing her pirate stuff. And then people were like, I want to know her story. How did they met? Like, how did the father and mother met? I was like, I want to know too. I never thought about it, but they can come in handy, you know, like with all these things. Like I thought about it. I look at my whole plot. I was like, would this kind of character be important in the future as well? Yes, it can be. Yeah, I'm gonna try to make this happen because I thought like this is a great idea. And this idea, like, just because people asked, like, I want to know their story, and I came up with like more ideas that I want to draw.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think that's good feedback, and I took it and I created something that even I really liked.
And since we're talking about the process, I realized that there's something I didn't ask you. So now you talked about before storyboarding, you're writing the script, right? But before you start writing a script, because like for example for me, after I write out outline of a story, like general points of it, I like to also develop characters and like write them out too, to kind of know like their personalities, their wants and needs, things like that, their background. Do you do that, or do they just kind of like grow with the story with you? Like what's your process on the character writing?
So right now they kind of just grow with the story with me, but in the beginning when I still didn't know the character that well, like I just know what they're gonna do, but I don't know their personality that detailed.
So you didn't write it out, right?
I didn't really write it out that much. I drew a lot of their reaction to things. I draw a lot of sketches, but like never really like have them like interacted with people yet, right? So what I did was like I just opened a document, and I learned this from another book. It's called How to Write a Damn Good Novel. It's a good book. And another manga artist, he actually like recommended me this book. Now I recommend it to everybody.
Read it.
Of course, not everything that they teach on the book is going to be useful for everybody. But it was one part that was very useful for me is that you can do an interview with one of your characters on a document. So I was like, oh, so like, how's your day? Blah blah blah, and like they will like react to things. So you kind of just like give this character a little bit of like a kick, like to just let them like go like. Start talking, start expressing themselves. Start to interview, and it's like, oh, I started to understand who this character is and how does he respond to things. What does he like? Yeah, and everything. So
yeah, that's also interesting way to like develop character. Because I also read a lot of like books when it comes to like writing, and there's a lot of different techniques that people do to like introduce character and understand their wants and needs. So this is also a really good way.
Yeah, and some characters make jokes, and some characters would have secrets they don't want the people to know.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's one of the ways to get to understand your character more, what their personalities are. And now I'm also thinking of another way, like the opposite way of doing it is to maybe check out like Myers-Briggs personalities, the MBTI 16 personalities.
Oh yeah.
So I thought because like every personality type has a certain way of like thinking and reacting to things, like if I go from this direction and then they'll make a character out of it, could be also a good way. Maybe I'll try that too.
Yeah.
So I like to try things.
Okay, so just to get back on track, so we do the story, now you do storyboards.
Yeah.
And when you do line art, do you also do the line art for entire episode, or is it like you do it by page? What's your process like?
Well, I do it by panels. So I finish one panel until I move to the next one. And then I actually prioritize certain panels. Yeah, certain panels in an episode I want to prioritize, like, because I have 2 assistants. But now we are talking about without assistants, right?
Yeah.
So without assistance, I will do the most important, like the spotlight of the episodes first. Yeah.
Why? Is that because like your eye is still fresh, or why do you choose that?
I think it's because I'm very excited when I start an episode.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, I'm very excited about like all these like the spotlight moments, the wow moments of the whole things, and they're also more important. And so I think with all the energy I have, I'll create them first, and then with the rest of the lower energy, I can create the other panels that are less important. I don't know about you. I'm a person who's like, if I like have a meal, I'll start eating my favorite thing first, because later on I wouldn't have enough room where I'm already like half full. They wouldn't be as enjoyable anymore. So the best thing goes first, and then it's the most enjoyable.
I like it. I should try.
You should try it.
Yeah, I usually just go and like I do line art for the whole episode before I move to color, but I will do it like from the first panel to the last one. I don't prioritize.
Yeah, if like if the episode say like every panel is very important, like where it's just like a conversational based episode, like I might do that. If it has like
steamy details
or like a giant background or like a moment where it's just like it's a lot of magic, and I was just like, I want to draw that first. Yeah.
And so after you're done with line art,
so without an assistant, so I still go like colors, and every color is like separate in different layers, but every head will be collected. So I collect every head because,
which is something I've learned from Moonsia actually. I didn't used to do that until she told me.
Yeah, I think it's very important when you have like a very important like deadline, and then you still want to keep up the quality of every panel, every episodes. So what I do is like every time I draw a new head, I make this new head in Photoshop into a smart object, and then I put this one into like a giant file of where all the heads are.
Just to specify, she's talking about every head of a character.
Yeah.
Appearing character.
Yes, character.
And usually main characters, right? Not
main
just
characters,
like every character.
Nowadays, like if these characters are going to be repeated, my assistant will create a file to collect their heads. Not just heads, but also like accessories, like hair, sometimes wavy, sometimes in ponytails. So like these are all like collected. So eventually we need to draw the same thing again, same angle, we'll just drag that in and then fix the expression. Then so we can like, that's how I created like weekly episodes with this amount of details. Because I feel like I kind of did too much with my webtoon. Is like there's a lot of details that I sometimes cannot handle. Yeah.
But yes, collecting different heads and expression is genius. In generally every detail, because this is such a time saver.
It's such a time saver, really. Yeah.
And so, but now we're talking like you just done line art, right? So you move to color and then you collect the heads, right?
Yeah, so I finish the colorings and then I collect them. And then I think...
So you collect them without shading, right?
A little bit, basic shading. But these shading are very generic. It can be like from anywhere. Yeah, so it's like very basic, not very specific of like where does the light come from. It's kind of like when you're just like walking outside, like everything is a little bit reflected. So it's not very like strong.
But it's a smart object, right? So you can still turn on and off those shadows, right?
You could. If you're very picky, you could turn off the shadow and then draw like for like, okay, this light is from there. It's from there, so like everything has to be different. But I'm on the timeline. Exactly. I'm like, I'm in a hurry. I cannot like go into like every frame or like and think about all the logistics things. Exactly.
And that's I feel like what a lot of people could learn from you, because you have such a detailed comic with a lot of details, with a lot of her backgrounds are crazy. Like I love your backgrounds, but they're crazy.
I love drawing backgrounds, but one day I might get that job to another assistant because sometimes it's a lot. But like one thing I do like after like every panel. So every panels is also a smart object. So it's within another one. And then it becomes one. And then so like these are very easy to arrange around. They can Photoshop.
And we're talking Photoshop again because you use mainly Photoshop for your...
Yes, I'm mainly talking about Photoshop right now. I do plan to... I'm still learning Clip Studio Paint, but I just like have my old habits from Photoshop a lot. Just like it's kind of messing me up. So yeah, but like every time like after coloring, I will do another special effects and maybe like adding more shadows to everything. If there's hard light from somewhere, then there's going to be hard shadows somewhere. So that's like later add on.
And that's where the anatomy and lighting and all of the previous fine art skills that you learn come handy.
Yes, exactly. But also a lot of them are just like kind of like tricks. Yeah, I don't always like nitpicking on like, oh, it has to be like this because of certain reasons. I was like, okay, if it looks right, it looks right. Okay, and then I cannot spend that much time on this panel anymore. Next, yeah. Otherwise, we'll never end, because if I really want to go detail and then make it perfect, I don't think I can finish one episode within a month.
Yeah, true. And that's what I was trying to say, is that like I feel like a lot of people, what they could really learn from you is the efficiency when working with such a detailed comic in general, because I feel like you have a lot of those like really nice, first of all, time management. Your time management is great. And also you have a lot of tips that I feel like could be shared, and like collecting heads is one of it. But do you have any more tips on like time saving when it comes to making your comic?
Time saving. If you have money, you can just hire an assistant. But
when you do, you can.
If you don't have money, then I think it's definitely on the way that you color things. Like if you have already prepared. So one thing I wanted to try in the future to save time. I don't know if this truly works. If someone tries, let me know. Is to create like a color palette. These are the only colors that you'll use in this comic, in the whole comic. Yeah.
I use color palette, but only for characters.
Yeah, but like I thought, like if you limit the colors that you use, not only that they go like very cohesive together, but also it limits like it just like cuts a lot of time of you deciding like try this. Like if everything is like done, then you don't have to think that much anymore. A lot of times the thoughts are in thinking. And also if your character doesn't change clothes, because mine is always changing their clothes. This is what people like about it too. So I'm like, I also really like it, but
I'm tired.
Yeah, and some clothes are more complicated than the other ones. So I also try to like limit the designs a little bit more. Yeah, or like I feel like shading and highlights can probably be. Oh, maybe like sometimes you don't necessarily have to use character in every panels. If there's a conversation going on and this guy A is talking, guy B is talking, and then they have another conversation, you might not want to keep like having characters because it's a little bit repetitive. So maybe you can use objects like around the room or stuff like these can sometimes cut down time, but sometimes can also like bring more time into your process. Depends like what you're drawing. Yeah. Or you can also create a comic that the person doesn't look like a
blob.
A blob.
A life of blob.
Exactly, because I was thinking like, oh, maybe I can draw a webtoon about like this nose trying to find who he is by collecting other parts.
And then in the end, it's still a person.
Yeah, that I'm like, oh, I can draw this really fast, but like I think the devil lies in the storytelling, right? Yeah, so you might spend more time on storytelling. So time savers, I don't really have that much.
Well, how about when you're deciding like prioritizing your panels and things like that? Do you have like, because you have a tight schedule, you release weekly, right? How about like, do you have, for example, you give yourself like this amount of time for this panel? Like, do you have something like that?
I think I used to do that, but I don't feel like it was very effective on me. Yeah. I do feel like if I spend like 4 hours on one panel, it's definitely too much. Yeah. So what I do these days is if I know I cannot finish this episode the way I really intend it to be, I will take 1 week break. Yeah. And I also don't push myself too far anymore. That I used to draw like 60 panels, sometimes like 60 something, just so people wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, it's so short. And then I'm like, it's short, and I actually don't know like if I can keep pushing myself this way anymore. I feel like in like long-term wise it could cause health issues, and I thought like, okay, I am gonna work 8 to 10 hours, 10 hours maximum per day. If like I have to go more than that, then I might as well take a break. Tell them I cannot deliver. Yeah.
I think that's also brings an important point where we should also mention like hiatus.
Yeah.
Where sometimes I feel like it's important if you need, in order to not burn out and like burn your comic down and stuff.
Because actually burnout brings more issues later on. I've reached a burnout that's pretty hard. I actually had a hiatus for 9 months. So 9 months, like. Still, when I slowly recovered, but when I go back, like after like 9 months, like it doesn't feel the same anymore as I used to start with the comic, right? So I feel like overworking yourself can definitely kill your love for what you do, you know?
Which applies to, I feel like, everything.
Everything. So I think if you wanted to create a series and it's going to be updated weekly, you have to consider the reality. Can you do it? Can you handle it? Or do you have enough assistants to help you? Are you going to be trusty about these assistants like handling these parts of your comic? Or are you very nitpicky?
Which, by the way, since we're talking about this, I feel like it's important to bring up like how you should learn probably how long it takes you to make an episode in general, so that you can kind of know your pace, right? So that you can
Yeah.
know how often you can update.
Yeah.
Like for you, how did you, I guess, measure it out? Because for me, it took me a while to figure out for this specific comic how long it takes me.
I think for me, I still haven't figured it out, to be honest.
But I mean, like of course, some episodes are longer, some are shorter. But do you have like a general?
Generally, I would say 2 weeks I can finish one episode nicely, smoothly, and still keep my life like in peace. Yeah.
What brings me to... There's a word for it. Oh god, there is a term for it.
Well, you look at your phone.
Buffer. God damn it, buffer.
Oh, it's buffer. It's not
buffer.
booster.
Yes.
I didn't call it booster. I call it buffer too.
Yeah, because it's called buffer.
Yeah.
So that brings us to buffer.
Yeah, buffer episodes. Very important.
Very.
Yeah.
Do not repeat mistakes that I've done. Yeah. Do not go without buffer.
Remember I told you create 15 buffer?
I know, but that was a scheduling issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, she told me that. So buffer episodes, very important. For those who don't know what buffer is when you have a comic in mind, you start working on it, but you don't release it right. You keep it and save it and store it until you figure out how long it takes you to make an episode and until you have at least 15, right?
For me, I suggest myself 15. But during this hiatus, if I want to create 15 episodes and then release, it's going to take a long time and people are going to forget about me, and then they're like, oh, I forget about the Witch in the Bowl. So I might probably release after 10 episodes created.
And do you think because I remember Webtoon editors, they also have suggestions for how many buffer episodes you should have before they start, right?
Oh, they say 15.
15. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So 15 sounds like a good number.
Yeah, but if you don't really need income right away or anything, I think you could actually go up to 20, 25. Yeah. Draw in your own pace and then start releasing. Doesn't have to be released so soon.
And now Webtoon actually has a scheduling tool that you can use to release episodes. For those of you who want to do a Webtoon canvas, there is such a tool now.
Oh.
So it's useful, I think.
Okay.
So with all of the type of buffer and set experiences and all of that, now what are some things that you wish you knew before you started making this comic?
Man, where do I start? A lot of things, actually. I wish I knew that I would get a burnout. I wish that I know after COVID things are going to be different. People are going to go out, have other activities, not just staying at home, drinking coffee, reading my comic. They have better things to do. Yeah, so and maybe the income is going to be go up and down. It's not going to be steady. And people will stick to your comic and probably leave and then come back and without knowing that your hiatus is over. How the news promotions might not be quite as expected. Yeah, because people turn off their notifications and stuff. I do too. I don't get notifications. Oh, I wish I knew that I should create more diverse shape of people. I wasn't diverse enough in the beginning. I didn't think about it that much. But then people comment a little bit. It's like, why is everyone so fit? I was like, yeah, why is everyone so fit? That doesn't feel right. And why isn't there a lot of race? But actually, this one I actually did on purpose. I thought there's only 2 races.
Raceless kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I wanted to just keep it raceless on the skin level because I already have the race of human and witches, and then I know if I add in skin tones, it's gonna have more issues. I'm I don't have that much time to create everything, and I was I'm just gonna check my tone right now and then make it whatever I am right now. Everyone's gonna be the same.
Copy paste.
Yeah, it was just my children's spread into this world that I created. Yeah, there you go.
I think it's good to be diverse and inclusive. At the same time, you don't want to do the same thing that it does now and just shoves PC in everybody's faces.
Yeah, and also the world I create wasn't really expanding, and different skin tones come from different part of the world. I was I don't know if I can explain that, and I have all these
with magic, there could be blue skin and stuff, isn't it?
There are green skinned. But they're not people. They're kind of elves. And there's someone with pink skin as well. That was also very, very nice. That was something I was not prepared. So I didn't prepare this story to be such big scale. But I thought it's pretty small. But then when I going on writing, I was like, there's actually a lot of things that involves, and then actually keeps me like thinking about like deeper questions. And I thought like if I have more things involved, it could be quite difficult for me to actually end the series well. Yeah.
True, I agree. You want to make sure that like inclusiveness still makes sense for the story too.
Yes, and again, like, because this is not the world we're living, so I thought like, okay, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But if today I'm creating something that's in our world, it has to be inclusive for everybody. So that I do keep in mind, because I did see like the feedback, you know, because this is what the great thing about Webtoon is, like you can see the feedback right away. I was like, people ask me, oh, why is there a skin tone? It's like, okay. But like there's like one episode, like 2 episodes where I have like cameos from other, so that 2 episodes I do have a lot of different skin tones, different hair color, everything.
Because those are like real.
No, these are other people's characters, but like I think like if I have to put it into books, I might have to take them out because of like IP issues.
Copyright, yeah.
Yeah, but like because it was like within Webtoon and I have to agree and just release on Webtoon, it's like okay, I want. It was fun. Yeah. But to go in print in the future, I might have to redraw these.
And since we're mentioning print now, because Webtoon is a vertical format, right? First of all, do you ever plan on like printing your comic? And secondly, if you were to print your comic, how would you go about it? Just because, you know, from a standpoint of like a person who's doing Webtoon, right? It is not the traditional spread. So that means you would have to make adjustments. So how would you go about that?
I do plan to do books, to print into books. Right now we're talking, but like there are options and stuff. So it probably is gonna happen, if anything is gonna happen like after the Original ends. And also I'll have more like energy to go on to that as well, like after the series ends. So from vertical to pages, I've done it before with my other comic that I released in Taiwan like years ago. It was also a Webtoon, but in a different company called Comico. And what I did was like, I think I did the work well before, is that I remember I say every panel, I create them as smart objects. That makes the process a lot more easier for the people who goes on to edit it into the pages. So for me, like, I didn't like redesign into pages on my own. It was the publisher they hired someone to do it for me. I supervise them on it. So they will create one page, the layout, and send it to me like, see like how I like it, if there's anything I want to change. Sometimes I say, yes, I want to like redraw this panel, and then I can redraw the panel, but like the things will be like organized, and it's very like clear communication. You can change anything anytime. So because I feel like it's like a very important skill as well, because I started with manga, right? And then that was like one of the main thing about a manga artist is that your layout, how you direct the eyes and everything, how it affects how you tell your story.
That is true.
So if you can, try to do it yourself. Yeah.
And if you don't have experience and you don't know how to do it well, either have somebody give you an advice or maybe learn a little bit more about it. Because like for me, I don't have a very good traditional page setup skill to like lead your eyes well, where like there are a lot of artists I know.
It's a whole subject.
Yeah, it's you gotta learn it. It's a whole another skill. So maybe before you jump into doing that, actually maybe watch some tutorials, learn a little bit about it before jumping in. Yeah. Because if you're just gonna copy and paste it on like panels, it's not gonna look well.
Exactly. It's something. Yeah. Because like flipping creates a revealing effect. It's very different. Scrolling, every scroll is a reveal of something. That's why like you open it and then you already saw everything and then you start reading. So it's very different. Yeah.
So we already touched up a little bit on that in the beginning, but I want to kind of go deeper into this and see if you know anything else. If somebody is working on a comic, what would be your suggestion for them? Like if they already have a Webtoon on canvas, or if they haven't released their comic yet but they have it, what would be your suggestion? What are the ways they could become a Webtoon original?
I think a good start with Webtoon is actually to go through Canvas, because with Canvas you can prove that you can update things like on time, maybe like weekly or bi-weekly, whatever you have your schedule, and then you have your own pace, right? So I think that's one of the most important things with Webtoon is like you can deliver what you promise to. And also that's where you can start building your audience. And these audience will probably follow you all the way to original as well. You can also start on like Canvas, release whatever you have. and then maybe the rest you can put on Patreon if that's making like monetizing is what you want. So that's also another way. I've never tried it.
But which, by the way, brings me to the monetization of things. How do you know, like, because you are in touch with a lot of other Webtoon creators and like comic creators, what are some different ways? Because I know that Webtoon, as a Webtoon original, you get paid a certain amount. But what are ways that people that are not Webtoon original, let's say Webtoon Canvas, could be making money? Patreon
is one of them, and now there's also like Instagram, right? Like I think like there's something about like you can subscribe to it, but I've never tried that as well. But everyone like goes to not everyone, a lot of people go to conventions like to meet their fans, their readers. And you can probably create some like merch shop online. So I use Printful right now. Later on, I'll switch to Fourth Wall, which is like you can create like print on demand for your merch. So that's also one way. Also, like one thing on Patreon is you can also sell digital files. This is something also I want to try later on is to like
sell different files. So not a subscription, but just sell
digital files. So I'm thinking maybe like I can create manga, comics, and then for purchase over there.
Interesting.
So people don't have to like always have to pay to get something, you know, like that doesn't make sense. No, it's like people don't have to subscribe.
Yeah, monthly, you mean pay monthly.
Yeah, like they can just like pay for what they want. So that's also a possibility.
If you were like, what are your top biggest advice for artists, young artists who are just starting out in the comics?
Yeah.
Like in general, what would be the main things you would recommend them do?
I think I always try to recommend something different in every different interviews. So for this one, I would recommend you to read more.
More comics or?
I think read more comics, read novels, watch movies, and also try to interact with people in the world and try to understand a person in a deeper sense instead of just surface level conversations. Because you want to understand how to develop characters. You want to understand character designs. Like a big part of character designs is a person's personality, how what they've been through and how they become who they are right now. I think interacting with anybody around you and be more empathetic and to be more understanding, it will help you a lot on creating your characters. And another way, if you don't have anybody around, if you're in the middle of the desert, read books and see how other people develop their characters. For comics, creating manga, writing webtoons, the most important thing is the character's arc, what they've been through. A lot of people got drawn into a comic is because of the character. My Hero Academia did this very well because their characters are also so vibrant. People almost I didn't care about the story anymore. I just oh, this character is so interesting. They draw me into this comic and I just couldn't let go of it, right? So one thing is definitely use your characters to definitely develop your characters more by understanding real life people as a base. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming today. I really
no
appreciate
problem.
that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was nice.
And thank you guys for watching. As you know, stay tuned for more videos like that. Let us know if you got any more questions or follow-ups or anything that has to do with what we talked about in the comments below. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.